Week 4, Day 1. Extended on TV and radio. In this lecture, we will talk about social medias, podcasts, and pre-roll advertising. Let's start with podcasts. Here are a few facts about podcasting that you should know. 46 million Americans listen to podcasts. On demand. Podcasts are on demand, meaning listeners consume them on their own schedule. So you decide that you want to listen to a podcast. Binge listening. 93% listen to most or every episode of a podcast they subscribe to, and an average of 6 shows per week. It is the most mobile form of media because shows are consumed anytime, everywhere, especially in places and during activities where text, video, and other visual content isn't possible. So it can be on public transportation, in the car, exercising, work, relaxing at home. It is the most mobile form of media. Let's take a look at a few of the advantages of podcasting. The first one is their perfect demographic. The people are usually educated with 4-year degrees, that's 51%, and they have a fluent income over 75,000, that's 35% of them. So it's a perfect demographic that you might want to advertise to because they can consume your product based on income. Most shows are consumed privately, like using headphones with hosts talking directly to attentive listeners and minimal distractions or interruption. As a result, listeners come to know and trust their favorite host of the podcast. Listeners trust their favorite hosts. They develop relationships with podcast personalities over a course of dozens of hours of intimate listening time. Instead of getting a typical 30-second pre-record audio spot, podcast listeners hear unique live ads read, made personal by their favorite hosts. Think of podcasts like endorsements. When a host presents your product or service, they are using the trust they have built with the listeners over time and applying it to the brand or the service. Listeners actually pay attention. They don't skip ads because they don't want to miss out on any part of the show. Similar to branded entertainment, podcast listeners are opt-in. They intend to listen to the entire show. Integrated ads. So a great host creates ads that are entertaining and engaging, making the spots part of the podcast, not like a break as a lot of advertising is looked at. Listeners actually buy products from podcast ads. An amazing 63% podcast listeners have brought a product they heard advertised on a podcast. And then metrics are easier with podcasts. It's measured by the downloads, so that's real numbers. Here are some tips about podcasts. The host should be your advocate. So if you're advertising a brand, you want to pick a podcast where the host can advocate for your brand. The copy is very important, just with any advertising, but it's even more important here because it's presented as like almost as like it's not an advertisement. You need to choose a podcast based on the category or the genre of the podcast. So you want your brand to fit with the podcast itself. So let's talk about a few approaches to podcast advertising. The first one is direct response. Advertisers want listeners to go and buy something in response to hearing their ads. If you hear an ad promoting a product and then providing a way to buy, often with the coupon code, that's a direct response campaign. Many advertisers use a unique offer code on their website URL for each show they run spots on so that they can measure which purchases resulted from which ads. You also have tune-in campaigns. This is when you ask listeners to watch or listen to some other content or channel. This might be a television show, an online video, a song or album, or even another podcast. These are usually more difficult to measure than direct response. Think about a commercial you've seen or heard for Coke, Ford, or Progressive Insurance. While these ads may discuss the qualities and benefits these products have, they usually don't come right out and ask you to buy. Those are branding campaigns. They're focused on building awareness of the product and the brand. Obviously, the desired outcome is that consumers will buy those products, but these advertisers are also aware that a purchase may come hours, days, weeks, or even months after the ad runs. The goal is that when consumers decide they want a refreshing beverage, the first thing that springs to their mind is Coke, or that they decide they want to buy a truck, Ford will be on their list. Other things to consider are spot positions. Pre-roll is the first spot position. This is an ad that runs at the very start of a show, typically just before or just after the episode's intro. It's a shorter read, maybe 20 to 30 seconds at the most, but most listeners will hear it because they're disinclined to skip forward for fear of missing out on the content. The second position is mid-roll. This is an ad that runs in the middle of the program once the primary content has started. These ads run longer than pre-roll and post-roll, which we'll talk about next, a minimum of 60 seconds long, and hosts are more likely to integrate them directly into the flow of the show, injecting them with a little more creativity and spark. This is the highest price spot position, and we're going to listen to some examples of those. And then you have a post-roll. This is an ad that runs at the end of the show, usually between the last content segment and any closing material. Post-rolls are typically shorter than mid-rolls and usually cost a bit less than pre-rolls. They are often purchased in combination with pre-roll and post-roll spots in the same show to help reinforce the message introduced earlier. Important consideration for choosing your spot position is the nature of your message. How much information do you need to convey to the listener, and how much explanation is needed? If you have more information, you definitely don't want to do a post-roll, and probably not a pre-roll either. If you have a lot of information, you'll want to do a mid-roll. Another thing to consider is spot density. These are how many ads of each type there will be for each hour of the show. A low spot density is a particular strength of podcasting, especially compared to radio. Most podcasts will have no more than 4 or 5 spots in an hour, while radio averages 9 minutes of commercials an hour, 5 containing between 9 and 18 different spots. tracking. There are a lot of ways to track a podcast advertising. We talked a little bit about the download numbers. Offer codes. These are a unique word or phrase that a consumer enters during the checkout process in order to get a bonus or a discount. I'm sure if you've shopped online, you use coupons and you might have to put spring 17 to get 20% off or something like that. It's beneficial to have an attractive offer attached to the code in order to give listeners an incentive to remember and take advantage of it, like a discount, free shipping, and things of that nature. Custom URLs have the benefit of being one fewer thing for the listener to remember. Each URL should be exclusive to one show so that you know which podcast generated the hit. So let's just say the podcast is advertising Coke and the podcast is called Sports 101. And so the URL would be Coke Sports 101.com. So you know if they're coming to that actual web page that they're coming from that podcast advertising. Checkout surveys. This method can be used on its own or with custom URLs or offer codes as well. It's basically a question that you ask a consumer when they complete a purchase. Where did you hear about our brand, product, or service? It can be a good idea to provide them with options that include the podcast on which you're advertising. If you use checkout surveys alone, make sure to include this in your ad reads. Ask the host to say something like, and be sure to tell Coke you heard about it on my podcast. Listeners are more likely to take the cue when prompted by the host. Okay, let's listen to a few examples of podcasts. So these are two brothers, and they give a weekly take on the world of sports and popular culture in a funny way. The show was nominated for Best Podcast in Television in 2012 at the Comedy Central Awards. So let's take a listen.
Look, Rand, you've got to plan for your family's future.
I know this.
You do financial planning, you get the insurance,
I've got that too.
all that jazz. But if you want to get real peace of mind, you got to make sure your family is legally protected. So where do you turn for affordable protection that you can trust?
One place, and that's LegalZoom.com, and I do it. See, we can speak from experience because I have wills from LegalZoom.com. I have a will for me and one for my wife.
Powers of attorney, living trust, more, everything. So there's your taking care of yourself and thinking about your future.
Do that. That should be a resolution you make in 2013. I'm going to take care of my family, all right? I'm going to get a will.
I'm going to be smart about life. Now,
if you start a business,
if you want to get proactive, you can form an LLC, incorporate, register for trademarks, patents, Oswalds, and more. LegalZoom, we've mentioned this before, was created 12 years ago by a team of experienced attorneys.
They know what they're talking about.
Their documents have been accepted by courts and government agencies in all 50 states. Plus, if you'd like an attorney to review your document, LegalZoom's got that covered through their legal plans available in most states. Protect your family and business today at LegalZoom.com.
LegalZoom's not a law firm, but you can use it to find an attorney and get self-help services at your specific direction for even more savings. And guys, it's cheap already, but if you want more savings, enter Sklar or Henderson in the referral box at checkout. That's Sklar or Henderson in the referral box at checkout. LegalZoom.com. Take care of yourself, your business, and your family, and do it today.
So there's a great example of a mid-roll where they incorporate the brand within the show and talk about it as if they use it themselves. So they're great advocates for the brand, and like I said, the listeners come to trust them. They're listening to them all the time. It's an intimate listening experience, so they begin to trust them. Okay, let's talk about pre-roll advertising. Pre-rolls are, by definition, ads that play just before the video that the viewer has selected to play. I'm using YouTube as an example because this is how it started, but it's also on other video or broadcast yourself platforms. So a few facts about pre-roll. 94% of people choose to skip pre-roll advertising. So you know when you go on YouTube, you find a video about how to brush your hair, and before that comes on, an advertisement for Burger King shows up, and you're watching that button, waiting to skip it because it's not something you want to see. Over 100 hours of video uploaded each day. So this is a very popular medium. YouTube is the second largest search engine. Viewers retain 95% of a message when they watch it in a video compared to 10% when they're reading it in a text. Pre-roll is great for brand awareness. We talked about that when we were talking about podcasts. However, you have a huge challenge. Avoid users from hitting that skip button. So when YouTube introduced the True View, they gave the viewer the option to skip the pre-roll ad being displayed after watching 5 seconds of the footage. Advertisers are only charged when someone chooses to watch beyond the 5-second mark. While TrueView avoids the problem of being overcharged, creating genuine viewer engagement for pre-roll ads still presents a big challenge for advertisers. As marketers, what can we do about this? Well, we need to think beyond the usual formats to come up with creative, non-traditional, and even extreme ways of attracting the audience's attention within the first 3 to 5 seconds of the video. So let's look at some successful pre-roll advertising campaigns. The first one is Geico. This might have been something you've seen before because it was very popular. It's considered one of the most successful pre-roll campaigns. It was actually done by the Martin Agency here in Richmond, Virginia. And Ad Age named it the campaign of the year in 2016. Here it goes.
Don't thank me. Thank the savings.
You can't skip this Geico ad because it's already over. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Here's another great pre-roll ad campaign. You have 2 elements which distinguish successful pre-roll ads. The ability to address the viewer being reluctant to view in the intrusion of the ad. Closely align the content with that of the video that it precedes. And so this campaign was done by BBDO, and it was executed perfectly. So what they did was created 64 custom scripts so that each ad could be customized for the video it played in front of. And the ad also states that their target audience, young men, hate pre-rolls advertisements while still presenting Burger King's offer. So let's just view how this campaign was set up.
Damn bitches be on my nerves right now. I cannot even watch a simple YouTube video without these advertisements popping up.
shoe band. I hate these things. This guy's just trying to watch a graphic animal attack video, but no, I have to sit through an ad. Stupid, incredible deal. This guy's just trying to watch a screaming goat video, All Black highlights, watch a music video, Jimmy Fallon clip, an Anchorman 2 trailer, North Korean babies play the guitar, but no, they have to sit through an ad.
Very successful pre-roll campaign there. Let's look at one more. Friends was very popular in, I believe, the 90s, 2000, at least 10 years ago. After acquiring the rights to all 236 episodes of Friends, Netflix made the show relevant to a whole new generation of fans with the pre-roll campaign that was adaptive and responsive to popular searches on YouTube. So they're trying to make this show popular again with a whole new generation, and this is how they approach this whole
Friends was the most iconic show of the 90s. Everyone talked about Rachel's hair, this song,
Smelly cat,
and Joey's famous pickup line.
How you doing?
So how does Netflix relaunch a show that finished 10 years ago when people are busy watching lots of other stuff? Introducing the Friendly Pre-Roll campaign. The first pre-roll campaign that is responsive to the videos you're looking for on YouTube. Because no matter what you're watching, there's something in Friends related to it. That's why if you're looking for cute cats, you'll get a pre-roll of Rachel showing off her hairless cat.
It's a cat.
That is not a cat.
If you look for makeup tutorials, you'll get a clip of Joey advertising makeup in Japan.
Ichiban, lipstick for men.
And if you're looking for dance moves, you'll see Monica and Ross doing their famous dance routine. We tagged thousands of videos with YouTube's top searches, but we didn't stop there. We even created daily pre-rolls in real time related to the world's trending topics.
I never seen before. You used to call me on my cell phone.
Helping Friends become the it show in France almost 10 years later. All with a simple pre-roll campaign.
Very successful pre-roll campaign there. Okay, let's talk about just a few tips about pre-roll ads. The first one is deliver your message in the first 5 seconds. This is something that Geico executed perfectly with their unskippable campaign. If 94% of people are choosing to skip after the first 5 seconds, then it's essential that your key marketing message is delivered quickly. Keep in mind the context. One of the most common complaints about pre-roll advertising is that the ad is longer than the video that it precedes. No one wants to see a 30-second advertisement before a clip that may be half of that time. Careful targeting. YouTube provides detailed targeting for which type of audience your pre-roll ad appears in front of. So that's very important that you pick a pre-roll that has the same target. That you pick a video or a video category that has the same target as your pre-roll. Make them laugh. When looking at a pre-roll ad that has succeeded, one of the reoccurring elements is humor. Viewers have an inbuilt resistance to pre-roll advertising because it delays them from watching the video that they have selected. So if you can provide value by making them laugh, then that audience is much more likely to respond favorably to the ad. And the last thing is build curiosity. Keeping the audience engaged with the ad beyond the 5-second skip mark is the biggest challenge. If you can build curiosity into your ad in these first 5 seconds, you should lower the number of people who skip through the ad. So that is your lecture on pre-roll advertising and podcast advertising. Please enjoy the rest of your day.